Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Boulder Track Show, a show by Boulder Upload of the Rivals Network. Today, we have a very special guest, two-time Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, former Purdue Guard, Chris Kramer. Chris, how are you?
I'm good, man. Happy to be here.
I appreciate you coming on, taking the time to do this. So, obviously, last night, Purdue got a big win over Marquette in the Gavitt games. How much did you take away from that performance? Because Purdue really hadn't gotten punched in the mouth at all. That was their first time facing real adversity in a game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was their first true test. Um, Beginning the game, I was a little nervous. This might this might go bad quickly. But after that first media timeout, they regrouped, came out, made a run. Got the game back. Kind of back and forth. Um, But the thing that really impressed me was how they responded to the runs that Marquette made. Cam Jones got going in the first half, and then Joplin in the second half, and how they responded when they could have just threw in the towel. That's it. We're gonna, we'll chalk it up. We'll get ready for the next game. In the midst of those in the midst of that adversity, they came together and they made plays both offensively and defensively, and it wasn't just one person. Obviously, Braden made some huge plays. Zach made some huge plays offensively. Um, but if you think about the hustle play by Caleb to save the ball, to keep the possession, get another chance at a shot. The block that Caleb made from basically out of nowhere on Joplin's three when he was wide open. Like those are big time winning plays that in the box score, yeah, he gets a block shot, but it could easily be overlooked. He got an offensive rebound, but those plays are the hustle, the winning plays that helped us win that game. And obviously Braden was sensational. Um, Zach was dominant. Um, I thought Brandon Newman played really well. Um, I thought Fletcher made some shots, very uncharacteristic of him at the free throw line. But as a guy that's worked out with Fletcher, that's seen him play, as a Purdue fan, if the game's on the line and Fletcher is at the free throw line, I feel really good about our chances. Obviously, he was 1 for 4 last game. I don't see that happening again. But I was really impressed with how they responded in that first true test of the season.
I think the thing that is most impressive to me, it goes hand in hand with that. I mean, every time they would get like a 1 point lead, Marquette would come back down and score again. And they didn't hang their head and they kept pushing, they kept pushing, they kept pushing. Then finally they just broke Marquette.
Oh, absolutely. And it was we scored in different ways. Obviously, we threw it to Zach, and I think in the second half he just turned into a monster. In the first half, he was a little kind of like the first game of the season, just a little out of sorts. That pressure, that getting kind of pushed off your spots a little bit. Um, but in the second half, he worked to get position. He made moves. He was decisive. And when you're that big and that skilled, it's just hard for people to deal with you. Um, but the way that they did every time, Purdue threw a punch, Marquette came right back, and then we came back, we threw another punch, and that back and forth, that battle of wills. Um, it came down to who was going to break, and fortunately, um, we didn't break, and we withstood there. Joplin's 13 points in 30 minutes or whatever it was. um, but just really proud as a fan, just sitting back and watching of, um, yeah, how they responded in the midst of everything when, things could have gotten hairy pretty quickly. But they stayed together. Um, yeah, and they just made plays. And that's the biggest thing is, we had freshmen making plays. Zach put the team on his back in certain stretches. Braden did it for a big stretch there. And I think with this team, it's not just going to be Zach. It could be anybody. And I think that's one of the things that makes them pretty dangerous, if you ask me.
Mhm. It's pretty interesting. In the first 3 games, they've had, excuse me, 3 different leading scores. I know last night Braden and Zach both finished with 20, but first game it was Fletcher, second game it was Edie, and then Braden threw his name in the hat last night as well. So it's a really balanced team. David Jenkins played well. Brandon Newman can go off for 27 like he scored his freshman year. This team is deep.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I really like is um, Brandon came in and he played hard. He was rebounding the basketball. He was going to get every ball off the glass. He was playing defense. He was staying down. Um, Jenkins Jr. came in, was making shots, made tough shots late in the shot clock. And, to win basketball games into the Big Ten season, and even as you push into, postseason plays, you need a guy that can go get you a bucket when the shot clock's running down. And, it looks like he relishes that opportunity and he just wants it. He wasn't scared. He was, completely confident. He knew how much time he had. He wanted to get to a certain spot and got there and knocked it down. So, both those guys are going to have a big role. I know Brandon got lost kind of in the sauce last night in the second half.
Mhm.
Um, I know people were asking me about it on Twitter, and it just kind of happens. It's not personal. When you find a lineup that's working, they're going to stick to it. And, essentially winning is good enough. And, Brandon needs to come back today, tomorrow, these next days and come back in with that same aggressiveness and intensity that he had at the beginning of the game. And, hopefully, if that situation happens again, you find yourself on the court and, not sitting there watching.
One thing about Brandon, though, I don't think he's gonna hang his head one bit because that kid been through a lot. Being he wasn't like a 5-star, obviously, but coming in being like a fairly highly touted recruit, gets redshirted, and then in the 2020 season he loses his father, and then last year he goes through, probably his worst year of basketball since he started playing when he was a little kid. Like barely got to play, whatever. I think he'll be just fine. And there's going to be games where he's going to be the one in there. He's going to be going off. That's just the type of kid that he is.
Yeah. I think, he's very resilient. And, I think the thing about basketball is it's never as good as it seems and it's never as bad as it seems.
Mm,
Um, so like as a Purdue fan, like we can't be like, oh, we're great now. We beat
yeah.
Marquette, we're 3-0, everything's great. We gotta, keep that even keel line, to stay realistic. Because as soon as your expectations, you kind of pump yourself up, that's when you get knocked off by somebody you're not supposed to. They need to keep that chip on their shoulder. They need to keep the dog mentality that they have. And I think they're overlooked by a lot of people.
Mm.
And honestly, I think that's kind of where you want to be. Um, Walk in, surprise people, but still play with that chip on your shoulder and play Purdue basketball, and you're going to win a lot of games.
You could, if someone, you look at all the upsets and stuff that's happened in college basketball this year, like Louisville losing to D3 schools and Florida. I think Florida State's 0-3. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're bad.
that that could have happened to Purdue in any of these games. It still could happen, honestly. But That's just the way college basketball goes.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you play the game. It's why there's not, it's not 2K where there's a simulation button and, you're
Mhm.
Florida State or you're Louisville and you have the name, so you just walk in and you win games just based on, the name of your school. You got to go out there, you got to show up, you got to play. Um, you know, I'm glad that didn't happen to Purdue.
Mhm.
Um, but Leonard Hamilton at Florida State, they're going to be. He always finds his way.
Figure it
And
out.
then the situation at Louisville is, with everything looming that where they were have a postseason ban and all that kind of stuff, and it came out, they don't. So now I think they'll be able to get some players. Um, so hopefully, I think that'll change pretty quickly, in the coming years. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's why you play the game, man, and that's why I love this game. Anybody can beat anybody on any given night. No matter who it is, you got to show up, you got to play, leave it all out there, and if not, you might get knocked off.
And like you mentioned earlier, it's never as bad as it seems, and it's never as good as it seems, I guess. I remember the 2017-18 season, I believe it was. Purdue lost 2 of 3 in the battle for Atlantis, ended up beating the best team probably that they were going to play in that tournament, and then ripped off 19 straight or however many wins it was.
Yeah.
So the ebbs and flows of the college basketball season they're a tricky thing.
Absolutely. I think from my experience, your season can normally go, you either start taking off or you start, going on the downslope around that Christmas break. You don't have school, you're practicing a lot more. All your focus is just on basketball. That's when you've had a little bit of the season to kind of see who you are as a team, what you guys need to work on, what works, and you kind of try to blend everything together to make a better product, moving forward.
Mhm.
And, that's that point in the season where some teams start to really take off and, you look towards postseason play or, conference play and you want to compete for that championship. Or, as a fan, you start to see that downflow. You're like, you know, let's just look towards next season. Um, but with college basketball, I think that's just how it is. And, I think every team that I've seen with Coach Painter, um, they normally always get better after that Christmas break. And, it's, you might take a couple lumps here and there. Um, Especially this season, we're starting 2 freshmen. Um, Freshmen are getting a lot of minutes. A lot of underclassmen are getting a lot of minutes. So, things are going to happen. Adversity is going to happen. We're not going to respond like we did against Marquette. Um, but as fans and um, as just supporters of Purdue basketball, we have to take that into consideration and um, not lose our minds. You know, we got to, stay the course. We got to believe in the team. We got to believe in Coach Painter and, the staff and, keep showing up and, supporting them as best we can.
Yeah, I mean, last year, that was kind of I don't want to say unprecedented, but an unusual start for a Matt Painter team because usually, like you said, they do take some lumps in non-conference, and I mean, I've come to accept that because I remember the Elite Eight year they were like 6-5, I want to say, lost to Texas when Carson dropped 40, and then they just keep getting better and better and better as the year goes on.
Yeah, I think, and that's one of the things that you want. Like, you don't want to start the season as like gangbusters and you're just
Mm.
dominating everybody. And then, throughout the season, you slowly are getting worse. Like, you want to just start out, and you gradually want to get better. So, obviously the goal is be playing the best basketball at the end of the year. But throughout that, obviously your team has goals. You want to compete for, conference championships. You want to win whatever tournaments you're playing along the way. But obviously the goal is, postseason play, conference championships, and playing your best basketball at that time. But, like we said, basketball's not easy. It's a game of mistakes. When the game's not going well, are you able to not let one mistake snowball into 2, 3, or 4? Can you just cut it off right there? Keep your confidence as a player, not look over your shoulder, and just, think of the next play and, how you're going to, help the team. I think that's the biggest thing that, Purdue can do is not let one mistake, turn into, 3, 4, 5 possessions, because you can really get yourself down, and against good teams, you're not going to be able to get yourself back.
Yeah, you tweeted that the other day. I saw that one. How difficult do you think that is for freshmen, especially at this level, like Braden? I know Braden had a tough start to the game. A couple turnovers, just wasn't looking like himself, I guess. And Coach Painter after the game said this was the first good half that Braden Smith has had last night. I mean, how difficult do you think it is for freshmen to understand that of only making one mistake and not letting it snowball?
It's tough, man. Because you think about the situation that Fletcher were in high school. You're the man. Like, you're not coming off the floor unless you're in foul trouble. And even then you might stay on the court. You just might not play any defense. So when situations like this start to happen and, maybe you do get taken out, how do you stay in the game? How do you not let that one mistake just carry over, not even just 1, 2, 3, 4 plays, but how do you not let it just take over the whole game? And, it's something that's not easy. But that just comes down to your mental toughness. When things do go badly, the best thing you can do when, you get subbed out is you stay in the game. You're cheering for your teammates. You're staying engaged. Because if you sit there and sulk and let that one turnover that turned into, a breakaway dunk for the other team, if you just sit there and sulk about that, it's going to eat you up, and it's just going to completely carry over. So then when you do go back in, you're not going to be yourself. You're going to get subbed out, and that might be it. You have to know you're going to get another opportunity. You're going to get another crack at it. So like, yeah, it happened. I turned it over. Whatever happened, let that go. Stay confident. Look at the next play and just go out there and play as hard as you can. And if you do make a mistake playing 100%. Don't make a mistake playing at 50% and being timid. Go out there and play balls to the wall. And if you do make a mistake, let it be, going full tilt. If you're playing as hard as you can, you're leaving it all out there, you'll probably get another crack at it. You can't let it snowball like we talked about. But, if you can let that play go, look at the next play, go out there, play defense, go get a rebound, go get an offensive rebound, get a steal, whatever it may be, you're going to stay in the game. But it is easier said than done. It's just having that mental fortitude to stay in the game. And the best thing that I've noticed with myself is just to stay engaged, talk on the bench, celebrate for your teammates. Don't just sit there and be pissed off about, something you can't control anymore.
And I think Braden and Fletch are both really good about that. Just seeing it from an outsider's perspective, looking at them on the bench, they always seem to be engaged.
I mean, it's a great thing to see. I do love that. It looks like Braden is really vocal. As a freshman to come in as a point guard, you love to see that. Your point guard is basically the extension of the coach, and he's a freshman, but if he's out there and he's demanding the respect and he's getting, the guys in the right positions and holding everybody accountable, that's what you want. So if he's, doing that for everybody else, he's going to hold himself to that same standard. So when he does make his mistake and he gets out, he's ready to go again. But he's going to keep supporting his teammates and doing everything he can from the bench for when he gets back out there, he's ready to go.
And that's something that Purdue hasn't had out of their point guard for a few years now. You look at, I mean, no disrespect to any of them, but you look at someone like Joe Eastern or Eric Hunter, they weren't super vocal, or at least it didn't seem like that watching the games.
No, I agree. Obviously you don't want to be critical, no disrespect to anybody, but I think point guard play has been one of the downfalls a little bit of Purdue lately. I think go back to last season, you relied a lot on Jaden to make decisions out of pick and rolls and everything, and he was mainly the main creator, shot maker, shot taker, all of those situations. Where this season you have a point guard who can do it, but he's also not just looking to score. He's getting in there, getting to the teeth, kicking out the shooters. And when you have a point guard like that who does it on both ends, he sets the tone defensively, but then again, he's setting the tone offensively too. He's pushing the ball up the court, getting guys open shots. He has the potential to be, like Lewis, and a guy that was just as dynamic, that can maybe, you never know what happens, but have a chance to be the winningest point guard in Purdue history.
I don't know how Lou Jack will feel about that. I think he'll like it. I think he'll like it, but he won't like giving up that title.
It is what it is. Obviously, you want to leave it better than you found it. And, I think Lou will just be happy that, obviously Braden's doing well, but if he does take it over, that means Purdue's in a great place. They've won a lot of games. And, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Records and all that stuff, they're made to be broken.
Yeah. I mean, I think Lou would like it. He loves Purdue. One thing that Lou said that stood out to me and I've really been thinking about recently is the fact that 1 through 4, aside from Edey, the backup could take the starter's job. How much of an advantage do you think that is for this team where it's just creating competition. So your backup could come in and take your minutes like that.
It's a great thing to have, because every day in practice, everybody has to bring it. If you have a few practices in a row where you're just going through the motions, you're not playing hard, you're not doing all the things Coach Braden says, he picks up on all of that. And you're going to find yourself, in a different role. Instead of playing 25 minutes, you might be on the other side of that. And you're going to look in the mirror at the end of the week. You played 10 minutes, you got 0 shots, and like, man, what the hell happened? I didn't practice hard. I got beat out. And, that competition's a good thing. But are you able to, as a player, withstand coming every single day and laying it on the line? You're going to figure out within a few months, like, who's got it, like, who can bring it every single day. Like, they don't need a day off. They're going to bring their hard hat. They're going to come and they're just laid on the line all day. They're going to do exactly what you want them to do, and they're going to essentially help you win games by doing so. And, so there might be a rotation right now that they have that they're trying to, find certain lineups at work, and certain games and all that kind of stuff. But as we, get closer into, Christmas and then beyond, all of that can change, man, especially when you have a lineup that's so deep that is interchangeable with different pieces. Because, you have Mason, like at the forward position, you have Mason, you have Caleb, you have, TKR. They can all play the position. It's, everybody has to bring it. And it's a great thing, especially as a coach. In your competitive drills, they're going to be competitive. Guys are going to be laying all out there. But the only downfall of that is going to be that it's going to maybe it gets too competitive. And you got to find that fine line of keeping it competitive, but not like getting guys in situations where guys potentially get injured. Mm-hmm. So that's be the only bad thing about it. But that competition aspect in practice every day, you got to love it. But there's definitely a fine line to walk as a coach to find, not make it too competitive where, emotions might get a little out of hand.
Now, how many times did that happen to you?
Our practices were pretty crazy. I would say our practices, I don't know this for a fact, but I would say our practices are probably way harder than what they go through right now.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Just the way we played and everything is so different. But to that, Coach Painter's adapted completely to college basketball, to his teams. And I think that's one of the things that I love about him is he's not a one-trick pony. Like, I'm going to go out. This is what we're going to do. This is our offense no matter what. And this is, this is what we're going to do. And, even defensively, they've changed based on personnel. It's not always the same pick and roll defense. They have different coverages and everything like that. And I think it just, makes you more dynamic as a coach and makes you harder to prepare for. And, I think the recruiting trail, they've been really good getting the Purdue guys, but fit like kind of what they want to do in the next coming seasons, and especially offensively. So, it's been great to watch, like the evolution of when I was there till, where it is now. It is completely different. I don't want to say, he's gotten soft, but like, I guess the game's changed a little bit from 2010.
I talked to a couple guys that played for Izzo at Michigan State, and they said that he's gotten softer as times have gone on. Coaches just have to.
I don't think you can just have your guys show up in their shoulder pads and helmets anymore. I don't think you can do that. Like, you can't have a football practice at basketball. That's the type of stuff like they would do. Like, you would hear stories about, and it's just like anymore, it's not going to fly. It's just the landscape is completely different. Mm-hmm. But he's done the same thing. He's adapted. They still play the same way. But coaching is all about adapting to your personnel, and obviously knowing that you can't coach every person the same. You got to know their personality, how they're going to react to certain things. Some guys you can just scream at and just curse them out, per se. And other guys you just need to pull to the side, talk to them directly, and they're going to respond. So, coaching's not easy. But, I think as a Purdue fan, we have one of the best.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. You know what I want to do, though? I want to go back and be able to sit in Mackey and watch some Coach Katie practices way back in the day.
I heard Coach Katie was pretty crazy. Come on, babe. but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would love to see. Yeah, I had a teammate when I was in Germany that played for Bobby Knight at Texas Tech, and he would just talk about like if they lost, they would end up running when they got back. Like if they didn't play to his like standards, they'd get back and everyone's like ready to go home. It's like, I'll meet you guys at the gym. And the managers, all they do is set up like a bunch of trash cans, like at the free throw line, half court, other free throw line, and the other baseline. And you're just running. And if you yak, but then keep it going. And he's like, man, it was awful. But if you can get through that, um, you know, they'll do anything for you for the rest of your life. They'll help you however you can.
Mhm.
But you can't do that today. It's just you just can't. And I think that's good because there's no reason like overseas per se. Like if you lose, teams are trying to fine you because you've lost 3 games in a row.
Mhm.
Like you can't do that, man. Like they're gonna try, but it's like just punishing them for losing. Like you can make your practice harder, but you can't just get back and we're running for an hour just because you guys lost. Like that's not helping anybody. All it's really going to do is create a really bad culture for your team, and everyone's going to be pissed off, and nobody's going to want to play for you. Like, especially now, people are just going to transfer in the middle of the season, and that's it is what it is. So I think there's a fine line you have to walk between like pushing your guys, but still like holding them accountable. And you have to know it's on an individual by individual basis because everybody is so different.
Not yeah. I mean, like we've mentioned, I think Paint does a really good job of that. Really good
Absolutely.
job of that. I mean, say what Purdue fans will say what they want oh about his tactics and his philosophies or whatever, but he can lead a group of dudes at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, it's always easier as when we're watching the game
Mm.
and it's in slow motion. Like, we're not sitting there, like, making decisions we're watching the game. We have timeout, we've watched a bunch of games. And we're sitting here being critical, saying that we could do it way better than him when a lot of people don't have any idea. Like, the dude is a basketball junkie. Like, the amount of time he puts in, that his staff puts in, it's crazy. Um, and the product that we see isn't always the product that they wanted us to see. Like sometimes the players don't execute what the coaches want. And, there's nothing you can do about that. Where, offensively, obviously, like Austin P, you don't plan on going 2 for 19 from three. If it happens, how are you going to find a way to win? Sometimes you can, but sometimes you just can't overcome shooting that poorly. Um, but I think everybody's going to say, "Oh, we need to find it," especially at the end of the season. Oh, we need a new coach. Blah blah blah. The grass isn't always greener. The grass isn't always greener.
He's I don't see Paint ever leaving Purdue.
No, the
Honestly.
only way he's leaving Purdue is if they fire. I honestly believe that. I mean, if he didn't go to Missouri, I mean, where what
They
I mean? Like he's a Purdue guy. Um, where's he gonna like? What more does he want? You know what I mean? Like, I think he's perfectly content. He's um, obviously he wants more too. I mean, he wants to go to a Final Four. He wants to win a national championship. Like he wants those things. He's not just content making it to the Sweet 16. Um, so he's just as hungry, and it's it's not easy. That's why you got to go out there and nobody planned on losing to St. Peter's, but like shit happens sometimes. That's why you play the game, and that's why people love the NCAA tournament, because teams can go on Cinderella runs that nobody had any idea about. And as bad as it hurt us as fans to watch, like, you don't think those players and that coaching staff feel way worse than we do? Like, we have to keep in perspective, like, they're the ones preparing, they're the ones playing, and we're just, fans that get worked up over, nothing. Like, it's not, if Purdue wins or loses at the end of the day, it's not doing anything for us. Yeah, we might be a little happy, we might be a little pissed off, but like, really, as a fan, it's not changing our lives. For those guys, it's changing their lives. You know what I mean? If Purdue loses and Purdue has an awful season, Coach Painter could get fired.
Mm-hmm.
If Purdue loses and those guys don't play well, when the next class comes in, there's a great chance number one, they might transfer, or when the next group comes in, they're just not going to play. So, like, it means way more to them than it does to us. It's just everyone has a voice now on social media and loves to put it out there.
Walter Jordan and I talked about that yesterday. He was going off. He was ripping Purdue fans. Well, not all Purdue fans, but the ones that we usually see on Twitter.
Yeah, I try to hold my tongue, but sometimes I can't, and I'll get into a Twitter war with people, and I feel stupid doing it, but it's just like, some people are so delusional, and it gets to a point where I've seen it so many times, like, from the same person, I just can't take it. So then I have to fire back at them, and then the next day I'm like, why did I do that? Happens.
There are these dudes. I was in the press section last night. There are these dudes that always sit behind us, going bananas, like every possession they had, Purdue had the ball. Give it to Edie, give it to Edie, and they would like get mad when people would shoot. It was the funniest thing to hear.
I mean, at least you're saying to throw the ball to your best player.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with that, but like, obviously there's 4 other guys out there. There was situations though in the game when I'm watching, I'm standing up screaming at the TV, like, but like, basketball is all about like finding matchups. And if Zach Edey has anybody guarding him other than their center, he has to get the basketball. And that's on him, but then it's on the other 4 people in the court too. And there's a few situations when he had, I think, Joplin, like, by himself. It was 4 out, 1 in, and he didn't get the basketball, and we ended up taking a bad shot. And it's just like, if I'm Zach, I'm going off. Like, I have to get the basketball. Like, do you see who's guarding me back here? Like, I can turn around and just nerf hoop, dunk it on him. Like, that's it. But, I think that's one thing Purdue could do better, is recognizing matchups, especially moving forward when you get into Big Ten play. If you push the basketball and Zach sprints the floor and has a guard on him, you have to get him that basketball right away, because they're going to have to converge and double, triple. And, it's going to give us wide open shots. And with the right guys taking those shots, you feel really good about that possession.
And even when he does get doubled, I know last year he was an underrated passer in my opinion, but this year he's really starting to show it. He's keeping his eyes up, and he's hit quite a few. He could have a bunch of assists, but guys just didn't hit open looks, which throughout the season they will.
Yeah. It's, how do you double team that? You have, especially as, 7'4", and he puts the basketball above his head. Like, you're just hoping he makes a bad decision, essentially, because he's seeing everything he wants to on the court. You just try to get him to push back, to dribble, maybe just airmail a pass out of bounds. But if he turns and faces up and sees everything on the court, like when he made that pass to Caleb when Caleb tore the rim off last night, like, great cut, but, great find. And the thing is, too, as the season goes on, the staff is going to know who they're going to come and double. Like the other team normally doubles with specific player or off of this guy because of for whatever reason. So they're going to know, and that guy's going to dive. Other guys are going to rotate, and they're going to get wide open shots, wide open layups or dunks. So, Zach might one game he might flirt with a triple double.
That would be crazy.
I could honestly see that because he's so dominant. You can't not double team him, obviously, or triple team him. But if guys make shots, he's going to get 10 rebounds. He's going to score at least 10 points. If guys make shots and make cuts, he could flirt with the triple double. I really do believe that.
That'd be insane if he
A
just
triple double, depending if he gets all those blocks.
Now that'd be even crazier.
Not that I'm trying to put this pressure on, but I mean, when you're that big, like and that dominant, he could end up with 20, 15, 9, and 5. Like, and shoot 75% from the field. Like, but on that, I'm really impressed with his conditioning. And that was one thing I was really concerned about. But what did he play? 33, 34 minutes last night.
Yeah.
Obviously, he has to sustain it. So there's going to be games where hopefully Purdue dominates and he doesn't have to, play that many minutes. But really impressed so far with his stamina, his conditioning level. Shout out to him, shout out to coaching staff, shout out to the strength and conditioning coaches. Shout out to Canada for, everything they've done for him in this summer as well. But yeah, he's in great shape and hopefully he just keeps getting better.
Yeah, and then some games he might get. I mean, it's just a matter of time before he gets in foul trouble in a game. That happens to everybody, especially with someone that big.
For sure, he's gonna pick up fouls, just because he is that big. The ones you can live with are like, I would be cool with seeing one a game where he just gets a basketball, just Shaquille O'Neal just throws a dude out of the way, just tears the rim off, and just like sets the tone right away. Like, dude, I'm coming, and this is what you're gonna get and get it all night.
Mm.
And that guy's gonna be like, oh shit, like this is gonna be a long night, I'd be to get one of those a game, like, just to know, like, dude, this is what you're gonna have to deal with. Like, I'm not settling for 8-foot jump hooks. Like, I'm getting to where I want to get, and you're gonna get punished all night. Like, he can't pick up those ball screen, illegal screen fouls. Those are the ones that'll kill you.
Mm.
But all of those, yeah, he gets the foul, but those are all on the guard. Going too early. So you have to let Zach get set because he's so big. If anybody hits him, they bounce off. But there's definitely going to be a game, and that's when Caleb and TKR and Mason, like, that's when you got to step up and relish the opportunity to be more of a focal point than you normally are with Zach on the floor.
No doubt. Well, we kind of went over time, so I gotta wrap this thing up. I know you're passionate about Purdue, so that was anticipating that. But I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time to do this. All the best to you. Are you still gonna play? Done.
Yeah, you're the first to be like my public retirement, I guess, putting it out there. No, I mean, I'm done. Just looking to see what's next at this point. Had a great run at it. Blessed to be able to play 12 years, playing in so many different countries. But yeah, it's time to see what's next.
Well, hey man, congrats on a hell of a career.
Appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Thank
You heard it here first on Boiler Up on the Boiler Track Show. Well, hey man, like I said, all the best to you in whatever you decide to do. You know, Purdue fans are and the Purdue family are always behind you.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, man. You too.